All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Prep Your Standard NATO. Today's episode is our very first over Skype interview, so hopefully this works out well, and it is with Daniel Carroll.
Yes. G'day. How you going?
So thanks. Yeah, good. Thanks so much for jumping on Skype with me. I know you're across the country.
No problem at all.
So today we're talking about Cam's cause.
Mm-hmm.
What is Cam's cause?
Basically, Cam's cause is essentially Cam's cause is a couple of mates and getting together to raise some money and I guess remember a good friend that happens to be an Australian hero. Cameron Baird was a childhood friend, and after he was killed in action, a bunch of the boys got together and said it'd be a good idea to get together and have a few beers and tell some stories about Cameron. And what turned out to be a bit of a fundraising activity turned into be what are we now, 4 or 5 years into a much greater fundraising legacy, I guess, and telling as many people that will listen about the fantastic story about Cameron Baird.
And if anyone doesn't recognise the name Cameron Baird, he is a VC recipient. So he's not just a soldier, he's a national hero. Yeah,
exactly. And even as a kid, Cameron was our hero, I guess you could say. Not sure how many of the listeners have seen the pictures of Cameron, but he's quite a large lad, and he was much bigger than the rest of the kids when we were growing up. And to be a friend of Cameron's was to mean you'd be looked after.
I got on the website that his motto in life was aspire to inspire.
Yeah, well, when Cameron was killed in action, his parents were called in to do all the standard stuff, and part of that was clearing out his locker. And on the inside of his locker, he had a note sticky taped to the inside amongst a variety of other bits and pieces, and it just said, aspire to inspire. And I guess that's what Cameron was modelling himself around as a leader, was to, look to do things that would help or look to do things that would be for the betterment of the team. And he always liked to lead from the front, and he wouldn't ask his team to do something that he wasn't prepared to do himself. So more of a lead from the front type of operator.
Yeah, sounds like a true leader.
Definitely. Playing sports as a kid, Cameron was always is pretty gifted when it comes to anything to do sport-wise, or I guess anything that involved competition, really. And if he wasn't the best, he'd sort of go away and make sure he came back the next time and was much better than his first effort. So he was always the type of person that he was more than happy to help out other members of the team that weren't quite grasping whatever it is we're trying to do, whether it be cricket, football, basketball, anything like that.
So how long did you know Cam for?
We met when we were in grade prep, which in Victoria is, 6-year-old? Yeah, we went to primary school together, and around, I think, the 11, 12-year-old mark, a lot of the kids that went to school were playing local footy, and Cameron's parents had decided to sort of hold him back from playing junior football because I guess they feared he might, being much bigger than the other kids, he might hurt too many of them. So we played the first couple of years of junior football with barely scoring, let alone winning a game. And just to show you the impact of Cameron as a sports person, within 2 years of starting football, we went from not scoring to winning a premiership.
Oh, wow.
It was quite a difference.
That's quite a long friendship you've had too. It's quite a number of years.
Yeah, we local lads in Glasson Park. We went to primary school together, and then followed the natural route of going to the local high school as well. And it was pretty much a very similar friendship group followed all the way through to year 12. And playing football along the way, and Cameron being a pretty gifted sports person, was being pursued by the Calder Cannons to play representative football. And all through our school lives, we thought we were going to be, after high school, we'd be turning up to the MCG to cheer along our mate because he was destined to play AFL football. Sadly, during his last year of under-18 football, he damaged his shoulder playing reserves football for Geelong Football Club. And that injury would ultimately see the teams who were pursuing him sort of cool for a year or so. And they said, "Oh, stay into the draft and, we'll look at you again next year when you've recovered from your shoulder injury." But I guess Cameron, seeing that, living your life and everyone telling you how good you are, it sort of really didn't sit well with him. And he decided to turn his back on football and focus on his other chosen career, which was joining the army.
And that he did, didn't he? Jesus.
He did. Well, I'm not sure of all the details of what happened in his first year, but he had a few hoops to jump through to join the ranks because of the shoulder injury. There were some issues around his capability to take part in the intake, but he proved everyone wrong, and I think he marched out on his march out parade the first year. He was most outstanding soldier, I think it was.
Wow.
At Kapooka, yeah.
Wow, so he, defied their odds and their expectations and just became a VC. Like, that's...
Yeah, it was... I think it's one of those things like waving a red rag to a bull. You say you can't do that, and it just sort of spurs him on to do, just to prove you wrong, just for the sake of it. But regardless of... That was just the type of person that he was. He was always destined to be good at whatever he wanted to do. And as I said earlier, even if it was something that he wasn't gifted at, whether he's trying something for the first time, he'd just go away and see what he needed to do to be better. He was a constant learner and, always striving to be the best at whatever he did.
Great. It's a real inspirational story, that.
Oh, definitely. And you see a lot of movies and books and a lot of stories where you see the stereotypical, jock type of person that's, the high school quarterback or whatever in the American movies. They're more focused on their sporting abilities, and they sort of fall away in the other areas of life have a poor personality and, terrible friends and whatever else. But Cameron was sort of the total opposite to that. He, as well as being a brilliant sports person, he had heaps of friends. I don't know him ever to have an enemy, even on the football field. People would just sort of... he had a reputation that preceded him that, we're playing against Beardsy today, so, we're probably not going to win, but just let's try and have a good game type of thing. But he was always inclusive of everyone that wanted to. If we were playing football at school, he'd always make sure, if there was any kids hanging around, he'd say, "Oh, do you want to be on my team?" And, everyone, their eyes would light up because, we're on Cameron's team, we're going to win. But, yeah, he was always a very friendly person, and, yeah, he always reached out to anybody that wanted to be part in whatever he was doing. He was very inclusive.
And he spent a lot of time raising funds for other charities too, didn't he?
He did indeed. He always liked to look after his team. And I guess that's what sort of got us on the path of raising money, is continuing the work that he was doing for his mates in the 2nd Commando Regiment. So we heard through... Well, basically, when we found out that Cameron had been killed, a few of the boys got together at the pub, and over a couple of beers and some stories, we heard through one of the boys that who had spoken to Cameron's father that Cameron was active in raising money for the guys in 2nd Commando Regiment. So we thought, what better way of honouring his legacy it would be to continue down that path. So that's what our first fundraising night ended up being. So we set our sights reasonably low of, a couple $100 in a sportsman's night like event, and we ended up raising in excess of $35,000. So it was
holy crikey.
Yeah, so it sort of blew us away a little bit, and coming away from that night gave us a bit of a sense of an opportunity that we had, or more a responsibility that we had with the people who we'd been able to talk to through just general talk on the street, and even through the rise of social media. It got us in touch with people all around the country and indeed the rest of the world, just sharing Cameron's story and seeing what Cameron meant to other people, it just meant that we had a great opportunity to tell his story and the story of all of his teammates, the 2nd Commando Regiment, and the great job that they do.
That's fantastic. It sounds like a good way to honour him.
Yeah, well, it's a bit of a surreal feeling that, you know, we'll never see Cameron again, but I get a bit of a kick out of talking to his mates in the regiment, and we're able to almost trade stories. They want to know what Cameron was like as a kid, and we want to know what Cameron was like as a man. So, you know, we'll get together and have a couple of drinks with them and say, oh, when we were little kids, we did this. And they say, oh, yeah, when we were out on a mission, you know, Cameron was this type of person and whatever else. And it's good to see that other aspect of his life that we weren't there to witness firsthand.
Do you have any favourite stories you'd like to share?
I guess there's lots of stories I'd like to share, but what can I pick? Cameron was never ever a drinker. We had Cameron ever since he was identified as being a super footballer, which was very, very early on. He dedicated his life to achieving that goal, and that meant, you know, always eating the right foods. We'd go out and have pizzas and that sort of stuff, and Cameron'd still be eating his healthy food. Never, you know, when we started drinking as adolescents, as like a 16 or 17-year-old, taking a couple of beers down the park, Cameron had come along, but always have his water bottle by his side. I found that a really, really, or now that I'm a little bit older, that was a very, very tough thing to do, I guess, with, you know, peer pressure and whatever else. But that was something that resonated with him, and he wanted to make sure that he gave himself every opportunity to do what he wanted to do and do it well. But we got to schoolies week, and at that stage, he was still a very big chance to be drafted into the AFL. So schoolies week, as most people would know, would be a very, very interesting time for people to, you know, let their hair down and whatever else after a tough year.
Well, am I putting it?
Yeah, after the first couple of hours of being dropped off by parents, there was a couple of the boys had finished drinking a bottle of vodka, I think it was, and, you know, doing whatever else. And for the rest of the week, Cameron had grabbed that bottle without us knowing and filled it up with water. So he was able to continue his hydration pattern without, and everyone thought he was drinking like the rest of us were. But little were they to know that he was still getting hydrated the way he wanted to.
Well, it sounds like if he's got a cause, he's going to see it through.
Oh, that was the one thing about him. If he wanted to do something, there was nothing that was going to stand in his way. He was going to do everything in his power to make sure he achieved that goal.
It sounds like a real role model.
Oh, definitely, and that's the real thing we're trying to push with anyone that will listen to what we have to say, whether it's going out to a school and teaching kids about the importance of having a goal and focusing on what you need to do to achieve that. Or even if it's going out to, we've got a few partnerships with football clubs around the country where it's recognising achievement, whether it be for excellence or just for people that continually put their head down and do the best that they can. So it's sort of sharing Cameron's story with whoever will listen. And if we get one person, if we go and see a group of kids, the leaders of tomorrow, if we go out and see a group of kids and we get one person walking away from that has a different outlook on what they need to do, I think we've done our job. So it really makes us very proud to hear that Cameron's story has made a difference on someone's life.
Yeah, I can really hear that. You sound very passionate about this, and it's really great to hear.
Yeah, thanks. It's a pretty the further we go along our journey with Cam's cause, the more passionate we become with what we're trying to do. We're developing some pretty strong connections with the guys at a 2nd Commando Regiment, and seeing that some of the work they're doing there it makes us feel really glad for being part of what we're doing, and gets us more proactive in seeing how we can become involved in helping them further.
Great. So do you guys just donate money, or do you actually get involved in like activities and that kind of thing?
Essentially, we do a lot of fundraising activities. We advocate on behalf of Cam's cause with the different associations. Like we've got an association with the Quarter Cannons Football Club, which Cameron was involved with as a junior footballer. So there's an award that's named in his honour once a year. So we'll go along to their presentation night and have a bit of a chat to the young guys there who are at a very, very interesting part of their lives where they're approaching adulthood, and they've got an opportunity to be drafted into the AFL and have their pretty much have their lives turned on their heads. And there's a variety of other opportunities that we have to talk to other associations and tell Cameron's story. But in regard to the Commando Regiment themselves, we sort of let them do their work, and we consult with one or two representatives, I guess, to see how we can best help them. Yep. And at this point, it's about helping the guys and girls, commandos, come back from service and are affected in one way or another, whether it be physically or mentally. And there's a rehabilitation facility that they're putting together up there that we're putting a lot of work into, and also some wellness camps that are being run to sort of help people manage reintegration. So it's just a camp where as a bunch of people go away in a sort of friendly setting and just do a few activities, whether it be kayaking or fishing or hunting or even just simple things like woodworking and that type of stuff, and just put them in a situation, send them with some professional help and try and get them into a better frame of mind, or even if it's just recovering from a physical injury, just little bits and pieces that enable them to return to, or sort of detach, I guess, from whatever they have been doing previously.
That's fantastic. Sounds like you guys are doing quite a lot to honour Cam.
Yeah, or whatever we can do. All the people in Cam's cause are volunteers, so sometimes it gets a little bit, we have to manage our time. All the people in Cam's cause have young families as well, so it's making sure we're managing our time the best we can and not getting too overwhelmed, but it's whatever we can do, we're more than happy to help out. And led by Cameron's dad, Doug. He's the president of Cam's cause. He's very passionate about what we're doing, and very thankful that we've got the opportunity we have to honour his son's name and his story. Yes, I think Doug's he's a very, very proud man. It's very evident to see where Cameron got all of his pride and values from. It's a very lovely family.
Oh, it's beautiful. So if people want to learn more about Cam's cause, where can they go?
Cam's cause is, I guess, the best place to find out is on our website. We've got a lot of information there. It's camscause.org. And we are very active on Facebook as well. So one of the guys, Rick Green, who's a fellow vice president, he's very active on the social media scene. So he's sharing a lot of things from around the country, and don't be scared to comment and share things with your friends. And if there's ever a question you want to know, just hit Rick up and he'll get back to you as soon as he can.
There you go, guys. Make sure you jump on Facebook and that website. And there is also a book written about Cam's life that you can go find out from your local bookstore as well.
That's right. The Commando.
Great. I'm just going to add that to my reading list right now. And thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today.
No worries at all. Thanks for having us.
This podcast was edited, published and produced by the RSLWA. Head to www.rslwa.org.au for other content. Make sure to subscribe to this podcast and follow us on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook.